Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Season 10 of the GT3 Sprint Series. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box is the one, the only, the legend himself, Joneman Price, and Tim the cameraman.
Yeah, we're all sharing the commentary box tonight. Stephen, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm all good. Really excited to be back for a Season 10 of the GT3 Sprint Series and jumping into a track that, well, we didn't visit last season, and that's Suzuka. And I've got to say, really looking forward to it. Suzuka, one of those circuits that you can either build a bit of a love to or you can build a bit of a hate to. I think it depends on which side of the coin you are, or if you decided to pick the wrong car for an endurance.
You're referring back to one of our previous races. No, Suzuka, absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite tracks. I just love the flow of this track. I just love the high speed corners you can go through. It's got a mix of everything as we have a look at that track guide in that blue bar, going through the spoon curves, down that back straight. I mean, one of the legendary curves. It's up there with Eau Rouge is the 130R, and then you need to brake hard for the Casio triangle, that last chicane, before you try and get the power back onto the pit straight again. I just absolutely love it, Stephen.
It's a very interesting circuit, but I can't wait to see how it's all going to turn out. But with that being said, let's go and make our way down to qualifying. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, qualifying out on the track. And it's going to be an interesting one for the guys to try and battle it out tonight. A couple of names that we used to seeing battling it out not joining us this evening due to a variety of load shedding coming into play. But new season, new challenges for all our race runners. As we see Leclerc Basson, he's having a bit of fun out there for the EG Hybrid Ferrari. But at the moment, Ryan Ottens is the man to beat and the man on the charge.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Ottens, our champion of last season. We'll have to see if he can defend that championship as we have a look at Nicholas Manuel Boersma. Stephen, you said it. There's a lot of familiar names back. Alan Patterson is back here. But also one or two new names around, trying to make an impact on this sprint series. Season 10 already. We are in Season 10. Can you believe it?
It's going to be incredible. Ryan Ottens, so keen to defend his championship, is going to have a tough time. Morgan McCall jumping into second place. He's actually switched up. He was racing the Ferrari last season, if I remember. He's now jumped into the McLaren. Christopher Radloff, he is going to be out there jumping into the Mercedes, which we saw Daniel Rowe running at the last point. So a couple of guys going and switching up a new bunch of vehicles to see what they can do. And I've got to say, it's going to be an interesting change for a lot of the drivers. Nicholas Manuel up into fourth place. He immediately getting dropped down as Sanjan Pillay putting in a great time to try and close down. But as you said, lots of new names also coming into the play. Not only for our GT3 Sprint Series Pro division, which we have on screen, we also do have our AM division. They're looking to go and have a bit of fun out there as well. But at the moment, Sanjay Pillay out in 3rd place, Morgan McCall in 4th, 5th, Christopher Radloff, followed by Nicholas Manuel. Justin Lotus is also out there in 7th place. 8th is SES Tehace, Ulrich Sickers in 9th, Charles Dodden jumping into 10th place, 11th, Jason McGregor. He's trying to get a little bit more of a run. Darren Miller also trying to make up some time. He's lying in 13th place. 14th is AJ de Kock, hoping to just claw his way back from the brink. Eric Kirstein in 15th, 16th, Bashir Jad Watt, he's out onto the circuit. Daniel de Villiers, Daniel the Hitman de Villiers, are going and returning to try and lock load and get a new target in. Harry Duplessis, Mahayath Musa, Jan van der Merwe, 20 cars so far. Isam Domingo, Ramona Yonka, Dean Cabasa, Jamie Rees, Alan Patterson, Loic Randabal, Jaco Krobler, Ronaldo Boersma, Quan Duplessis, Tini Nkube, Daniel Rowe, Chris Heineke, making it 32 cars, might I point out.
32 cars around Suzuka. Luckily, it's one of the longer tracks on the circuit, so there'll be more than enough room for all the cars to negotiate the track. But looking forward to exciting times, Stephen. That list of names that you went through, we've got drivers that we haven't seen in a while that making their return to Raceface, starting to race a little bit again. And then we got the stalwarts, the guys that we used to seeing around the track trying to make the impact yet again in another new season. Some of them swapping cars. Will we see them maybe take a race or two to get used to the cars? You know, there was a couple of weeks in the off season that gave them plenty time to do some testing, but a lot of these drivers also, they were in the endurance race over the weekend, so can't really say they will be rusty.
Well, that's it. And also to the guys out in the grandstands as well, we got to give a shout out to all our grandstand buddies out there going and showing off. So a big thank you to you guys. See Robert Wentworth, got Jude Neville, along with Hansi Myberg, I Am Field, Grant Sebastian, Top Tech IT Sim Racing, Iri Murray coming in as well. So we've got lots of people out in the grandstands. Good to see you guys. Good to have a bit of fun. Glad you could join us this evening for some amazing racing that's coming up. I see a couple of liveries haven't quite pulled through. I know that we have got our livery system. As you can see, there's been a bit of an update. So, well, even my own system has got a mini map, which we will be getting rid of during the short break. But at the moment, Daniel Dematros Petro out in first place, 158.8 is his quickest lap time. Ryan Otten's in second place, just ahead of Sanjan Pillay in third. Fourth place, Justin Lotus trying to claw his way through. So Ryan Otten's hoping that he can get a little bit more pace to claw his way through. Morgan McCall looking to return, and I believe Robert McCall was talking about also racing possibly, and that's his dad. Maybe we see Junior McCall returning in the season as well. So lots of names jumping back into the fray to have a bit of fun. Lots of teams also looking to get a little bit more out there and put in a great fight. As we caught in the recap, Yellowman, that the season last season had its to and fro's. Lots of guys trying to get better and better, trying to figure out what they need to do to claw their way to the top. And I think a lot of people went back to the books to figure out what's going to be needed to put themselves on that top step of the podium.
Absolutely. And Stephen, one of the names that sticks out a little bit is the man currently in pole position, Daniel Dematros-Preto. He really started making an impact through the course of last season in the sprint series. Let's see if he can carry that momentum through to this season out there in the Lamborghini, looking very menacing with those black rings around the headlight. I kind of like that livery style he's got going there.
It gives it a little bit. I know it should be a bit more stickers on it, but that we'll sort out for the next one. Quinn Duplessis is out in 9th place. Yes, we are getting the name right eventually after 2 years.
I will get it. Don't worry.
We'll get it right. Don't stress. But also a couple of names we need to be aware of. They're going to really be pushing the boundaries. Keep an eye on Jamie Rees. Also been going and clawing his way through. Jumping up into the Pro division, was originally in the Pro-Am at one point, so it's now starting to get better and better and really improve. That's one thing I do want to talk about. We do have a couple of previous Pro-Am drivers now coming into the fray, and looking to get themselves right to the top here in the Pro Division, which is nice to see that, well, the guys taking the experience, learning, getting better, and focusing on what they need to do to claw their way through. I do want to point out, though, there is a couple of drivers out on the circuit that were racing, and this is in between all the different divisions, they were actually racing last night in TCR cars here at Raceface, and now they're jumping into rear-wheel drive GT3 cars to have a bit of fun. So those are things to keep an eye out for as we look forward to it. A couple of names I'm not seeing here is I don't actually see Bago Krobler. It doesn't look like he is in the grid this evening. No, never mind. There he is. Jaco Bago Krobler. He is back. He actually raced in the TCRs last night, so trying to get to grips with the current car being that GT3 BMW. Chris Heineke looking to go and make a bit of a move. He's trying to be a bit of a mover and shaker as he puts the power down. But Ryan Otson so far on the quickest lap time, 0.4 up on his previous lap time, trying to get a little bit more of a run through the final corner. Drag race all the way through. Can he jump himself into first place? And does so just ahead of Daniel, but just by the skin of his teeth. Daniel trying to return the fight, going 0.2, might be able to match it, but I mean, take a look at that lap time, 0.048 between second and first place for qualifying. Third place, Sunjin Pillay at the moment trying to get a little bit more pace as he makes his way through the 130R, hard onto the brakes, into the chicane. He's caught up behind a bit of traffic. I think that's going to impact his time. Yep, that's it. Amazing. When you reach at this level, you're at such a knife's edge the whole way through. You've got to be so cautious of how to claw your way through. Taking a look, though, track temperature, 30 degrees out on circuit, 23 degrees air temperature. No wind, so that's also going to come into play for the guys as they maneuver their way around the circuit. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is all going to turn out. But with that being said, Janneman, take us through what the GT3 Sprint Series is.
GT3 Sprint Series is basically 55 minutes of start to finish racing. A couple of seasons ago, they did bring in one mandatory pit stop where you at least need to add 1 liter of fuel for it to register as a pit stop. No need to change tires, so there's no compulsory tire changes. Although we have seen guys in the past play around a little bit and put new tires on and take the car out low fuel on new tires. But this is action-packed racing, start to finish. Steven, there's a little bit of strategy involved, but not as much as you will see tomorrow evening in the longer version of the race.
Well, that's it. But tonight can be a make or break. And as we know with this series, it originally started as just practice, and it's turned out into a proper knife fight of a series that gets people really, really excited to really put the hammer down, focus on the charge that's needed to claw their way through. And I've got to say, I'm looking forward to seeing how the guys are going to push themselves that little bit more. Are they going to be able to close down the distance? Will Ryan Ottens be able to get the jump out of the box? Well, this is all stuff we're going to find out in due course. And I've got to say, it's going to be a very, very interesting battle for everyone to try and figure out, okay, what do I need to do? How can I close the distance? What can we do to make things a little bit better? And who's gone back to the books to learn to improve from last year's racing to now?
Absolutely. And this being the first race of the season, I had a little chat this afternoon to somebody, and he put it so nicely. The first race of the season is all about bragging rights. So you want to hit that, or you want to hit the ground running. You want to do as good as you can possibly do in this race to try and get that momentum going for the rest of the season.
That's it. And, Bago saying, that's not me, it's another Jay Krobler. You see, there's too many Kroblers. Far too many Kroblers. Bago out in the chat. Andre Goes Racing says, keen to see where my Project Vapor team is going to be. Erie saying, Hunty, thanks for joining, which is, unfortunately unable to make it, but he is looking forward to seeing the guys duke it out. But let's go through the grid. while we can, because they're going to go through 130R and then we're going to be racing. So Ryan Ottens will be starting out in first place, followed by Daniel Dematros-Petro, Sanjan Pillay, Nicholas Manuel, Justin Lotus, Morgan McCall, Christopher Radloff, Daniel Rowe in 8th, Quinn Duplessis in 9th, and 10th is Daniel de Villiers, followed by Leclerc Basson, Bashir Jadwat, Ronaldo Boersma, Essie Esterhuis, Ulrich Sichers, Jason McGregor, Charles Darden, Eric Kirstein, Darren Miller, Issam Domingo, AJ de Kock, Ramona Yonker, Johan van der Merwe, Tini Nkube, Mahayath Musa, Alan Patterson, Kerry Duplessis, Dean Kabasa, Jamie Rees, Chris Heineke, Loic Randabel, and Jaco Krobler, rounding out our field as they take off. Now heading through the 130R, you can see Tim the cameraman trying to get some shots out at the front, but it's going to be a race down to the line as Ryan Ottens has got that first place. Daniel is going to ensure that he's going to try and get a little bit more of a jump when they come across the line. One mandatory pit stop, so it is going to be how you get it all sorted. As the cars file their way through, they're going to have to maintain at 70 kilometers an hour, not any faster. Otherwise, they are going to land up with a world of hurt with that drive-through penalty, going and making a one stop into a 2.
Yeah, absolutely. As they head to the starting line, Stephen, this is going to be jam-packed, and I'm going to hand it over to you as we're going to go green very soon.
Yeah, waiting for the lights, all filing in tow, everyone looking to where they can get the jump as we wait for Jim to call green. There it is, green lights away. And we are racing here at Suzuka for round 1 of the GT3 Sprint Series into the corner. Daniel going to try go around the outside. He's trying to lock it down. Ryan Ottens doing everything he can. Sanjan Pillay going out wide. Has now got a problem as Nicholas Manuel looks to storm on by. Sorry, that was Nicholas Manuel that went out wide as he's got Morgan McCall for company. Morgan tucks in right behind him, trying to push him as hard as he can. Justin Lotus looks to get involved with the fight. Christopher Radloff going and defending to keep back Daniel Rowe out in the Mercedes. So Daniel Rowe coming back in the Mercedes as they file the way through. But Ryan Ottens has slingshot himself away from the grid as they pull their way through, making their way around now under hard braking, slide it into the right-hander, a little bit of a double right, and now it's heading up towards the sharp hairpin. This is where we see moves that can break a race in a matter of seconds, especially with very cold tires and very cold brakes. But it looks like everyone managing to file their way through. Morgan getting a very poor exit. That's allowed Justin Lotus to close down the distance. Christopher Radloff doing everything he can to keep on the toe. Daniel Rowe just going and following suit. Quinn Duplessis as well. Bashir Jadwat, he's going and keeping an eye as he's got the hitman, Daniel de Villiers, right behind him. Essie Estes trying to close down the distance. Leclerc Basson right behind. He has got Ulrich Sichers right behind him, doing everything he can. Jason McGregor trying to look for the inside line, wasn't able to make it stick. Charles Darden doing everything he can to put down the power. And there is Issam Domingo going and battling out for the Project Vapor team. He's into the toe, but got Darren Miller right behind him. Eric Kirstein looking to try and make a move as they make their way through for the first time around the 130R. Eric Kirstein touching grass, going to unsteady himself though, managing to keep it in check, but definitely a heart in throat moment right for there as they filter their way through. Ryan Ottens though leading out the field, already putting a 0.8 second gap between himself and second place.
Yeah, but Daniel Dematros-Petro has managed to pull away from Sanjan Pillay a little bit. He's being kept busy by Nicholas Manuel. I think Daniel in second place. He is wary to not let Ryan Ottens gap him. He knows if he's going to get busy in a fight behind him, he's going to get held up, and that will allow Ryan Ottens to straight that lead. So well done to Daniel Dematros-Petro for opening up that gap to Sanjan Pillay. We've got Morgan McCall filtering his way through. He's in a battle with Nicholas Manuel. Slight gap behind him to Justin Lotus. Not too much. Stephen, this is still the early parts of the race. The whole field is very close together as we have a look at Basson. He's going a bit slowly there.
No, he's
right
actually...
front of that.
He's going...
Ferrari.
Yeah, that's looking a little bit slow. And I was watching him drop down the order. Let's see what happened. He went out wide onto the grass, and then unfortunately had an entire train of cars going past him. Has to stay out wide, and by doing that, the door is just wide open, and everyone, like an uninvited guest to a party, is going to make themselves rather comfortable at your expense.
Yeah, it was actually, I had a second look, the livery of that Ferrari that looked like it had damage on the right front, so my apologies. Just going onto the grass a little bit, and as you said, Stephen, that allowed the door to open, and now Mattia Musa is behind him. So he's got company all over and company aplenty.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a proper fight. Managing to pull away. I see Ronaldo Boersma, though, has come to a stop. Where is he? He is in the pit. So Ronaldo Boersma actually retiring the car. There's Tinian Kube, who is miles back from the rest of the grid. And it looks like he went and had a little bit of a late start to his race. Ryan Ottens, though, putting in the fastest lap time, a 159.9 as he tries to power his way through. So a couple of guys just trying to get a little bit more of a run. But I've got to ask a very good question. Leclerc Basson, though, very slow again. I actually got yellow flags for it. What is going on with this car? Through the 130R, goes out wide, catches a tank, slapper, and Mahayath Musa managing to keep it all together while going sideways, avoiding Leclerc Basson. But not a corner that you want to go sideways. A quick way to go and change the color of your shorts, that's for certain. And when you try and get going, you're trying to recompose yourself at this point.
Yeah, but I must say, well done to him. It was the slightest of touches on the wall. So there might be a little bit of aero damage on the car, but that could have very easily turned out into a very big accident.
Now, I've got a very good question for you, because we have got a very limited run. This is a 55-minute race. The guys are going to have to try and figure out what they need to do to go and claw their way through. I see our session timer hasn't popped up. Try and get that sorted out for everyone as quick as I can. But the guys are having to figure out what needs to be done, how they can claw their way through, make themselves get to the top, and get racing once again. Do you think it's worth opening the gap this early on, or just keep within arm's reach of the entire field to ensure maybe, just maybe, watch what the guys are going to do?
Even it all depends on the pace that you're running at the moment. If you feel that you are running a comfortable pace and you're not being held up by the car in front, keep in mind Suzuka is one of the longer tracks on the calendar, so it is a track where an early pit stop is a possibility or a thought of a strategy, so that if you feel you are being held up and you can go quicker, there's enough space behind you to do the pit stop and get out in front of the leaders with some margin that you can try and do a quicker pace to try and make up positions in that way while the other cars are out on track battling it out, as we have a look at Quinn du Plessis and Daniel Rowe battling it out there. Don't really know if their does look, I correct myself, it does look like they're battling it out. Quinn is really trying to find a way past Daniel, so he really feels like he's being held up at this stage. So for him, pitting may be a possibility to try and get into that clear air.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't really look like team orders looking at that battle. Charles Darden has got Eric Hustain right behind him. A couple of guys have pitted, though. Justin Lotus, he's stopped. He was stopped in the box for 7.3 seconds. Johan van der Merwe actually stopped for 10.1. Alan Patterson, he's stopped. Tinian Kube has also parked. He's also done his stop as well. So we have got so far 1, 2, 3, 4 cars that have parked. But from entrance to exit, very interesting on this circuit, 31.9 seconds, excluding stopping in the box. So the guys will have to at least have roughly a 40-second gap before they can be able to maintain their position. Nicholas Manuel still feeling the pressure as Morgan McCall right behind him, really laying on the pressure, but that's allowing Christopher Radloff to get in tow and pull himself along as they make their way through. Interesting enough, though, Nicholas Manuel, I think, starting to crack ever so slightly as that Ferrari investigates dirt. Morgan trying to go around the outside. We've seen his move before to do this, makes it stick. Absolutely textbook as he makes his way around Nicholas Manuel, who just didn't have the drive needed to break away. Now he's got Christopher Radloff in the tow, and Christopher Radloff is going to look for the inside line. Nicholas is going to try walk him to the wall. Unable to do so. Here comes the mighty Merc under braking. And I've got to say, that's the one thing about the Mercedes. You can go door to door with it, but when it comes under braking, for some odd reason, it stops on a dime.
Yeah, both me and you have raced the Merc before in other series. It's a car that I liked racing, Stephen. If you get that setup sorted right, it can be a very stable car that you can really take the fight to the other cars on track. As we have a look now at Morgan McCall making his way around Nicholas Manuel. He's now trying to close that gap down to him. Already opened up a little bit of a gap over Christopher Radloff. So these guys are really duking it out around the track, trying to close the gap to the car in front of them in order to make up positions in that way.
Well, that's Nicholas Manuel. He's got contact from Daniel Rowe. Turns round and Quinn du Plessis tries to sneak by. He gets a little bit of a knock as they make their way through. Daniel de Villiers, though, he looks to try and capitalize on it, seeing that there was an act of, well, all I can say is a physical assault ahead of him. He decides to come by, makes up a position. Wasn't the easiest of run, as Nicholas Manuel did make him work for it, despite having not as much drive needed. But that little slide's going to hurt the tires as they battle their way through. With race only 45 minutes left in it, the guys are going to have to start thinking very carefully of what they need to do to try and close down the distance. Taking a look, though, we have got the guys pulling into the pits. Justin Lotus, Ramona Jonker has actually pulled into the pits. Jan van der Merwe, AJ de Kock, Alan Patterson, Teddy and Kube, they've all pitted. And Gerry du Plessis has decided to pit it as well. So a couple of guys going for those early pit stops, hoping that it'll play out in the long game. Considering the lap times, though, nearly 2 minutes a lap, it may be a very good idea to do it because you can get a little bit of spacing. As you said, get into that clear air and start accelerating as hard as you can. Focus on what's needed to get your way back up to the front and start on a good wicket for the championship.
Absolutely. As we have a look at Christopher Radloff making his way around, he's trying to make his way past Morgan McCall. Morgan McCall, I don't know if you saw there through the first curve, Stephen, the Mercedes was able to, follow a much tighter line than the McLaren through there. Don't know if McCall outbraked himself a little bit and that made him go deep into the corner. But Daniel de Villiers now trying to get onto that under the rear wing of Quinn du Plessis. Yeah, I got it right. Quinn du Plessis making his way around, running a little bit wide. That's going to cost him. He's going to lose drive, and that's going to allow Daniel de Villiers to close that gap down. Stephen, I must say the livery on that Lamborghini looks awesome for this season.
Yeah, definitely going and being a striking one. I do apologize. It looks like some of the liveries haven't pulled through. We will obviously be investigating it to ensure that we can get everyone's liveries out and proper. But there is some great racing out on the circuit. The guys putting in a proper fight. Interesting enough to see a lot of the mid-engines as we see Daniel Rowe getting on the power. Sorry, that's Christopher Radloff getting on the power. He's sliding his way through. Daniel Rowe trying to close down the distance with Morgan McCall right behind Christopher Radloff. 130R, would that be a very tempting option for him? Deciding not, he's going to keep it through. I got to say the 130R is much like Blanchemont. It's one of these corners, if you're going to go for it, you've got to have your car all hooked up. Blanchemont and Spa, you can go side by side. 130R, you can, but you're asking for a world of hurt. And considering the track limits, well, you can get hurt rather badly.
Not recommended, really. You can, but it's not really recommended.
Yeah,
so the two.
It's one of those like on the back of the Chappies packets, when you open it up and it gives you the inspirational notes. Yeah, passing advice. 130R passing, not the best one. Good.
Possible, but not advised. Well, at this stage, we've got Morgan McCall, and he is in a hybrid sandwich. The two Mercs of Christopher Radloff and Daniel Rowe. They've really sandwiched them in. Christopher Radloff doing a brilliant job keeping Morgan McCall behind him. That has allowed Daniel Rowe to close that gap down. So Morgan now has two Mercs to deal with, one front and one behind, both of Hybrid Academy.
Now, this is where you're going to start thinking, okay, the guys are definitely talking to one another, and I'm in the worst situation possible. You're watching your mirrors. You know the communication is out there. The guys are trying to figure out what can they do to get you a little bit further behind, and being stuck amongst the teammates does make it a very compromising position. In turn, one can radio to the other of how to move forward. I do want to point out a little bit further back, we got Jan van der Merwe. He's going after Ramona Janka. Ramona doing everything he can to try and keep ahead of the ZRC Scuderia team that's actually not in a Scuderia, but in the McLaren, which is a little bit different to what we saw last season. But they are fighting it out. At the moment, though, leading with all the pit stops in a pretty much a net first place is Justin Lotus, so keep an eye out on him. Don't count him out. A bit of an earlier pit stop, and with all the reports that he's getting in from his teammates out front, I think he's in for some very, very valuable information.
Daniel Rowe taking the extra wide line there through the 130R. That made him lose a little bit of ground. Got Miller making...
He's got Essie Estace, who...
through the 130R.
Somebody clip that. To get a drift around 130R, that's just bragging rights. Pure bragging rights. I do want to point out, though, Morgan McCall deciding he's going to opt... Yeah, he's opted out of the sandwich.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, maybe that is an option for Morgan McCall to dive into the pits and get out of that hybrid sandwich.
So let's see how that's going to work. Eric Kirstein, he's trying to do everything he can. Miller trying to go on the inside of Essie Essays. Essie not going to back down, though. Sliding his way through. He's keeping Miller at bay. Tim, the cameraman, trying to keep up with all the action. Miller, though, got a very poor exit. Losing a bit of time. Morgan McCall, 30-second stop-go penalty added, and that is going to be for getting off the pit limiter.
Yeah, speeding in the pit lane. So... there goes his whole strategy of undercutting, Daniel Rowe and, well, overcutting Daniel Rowe. But what was it in front of him? Nicholas Manuel.
He had Christopher Radloff ahead of him. Yeah, now he's trying to chase down Leclerc Besson, who has, he's trying to chase down. I see our timing screen is a little bit slow. Morgan McCall actually in 22nd place, going after Leclerc Besson. But he's got that stop-go 30-second penalty looming over his head. So what he needs to do, in my opinion, is actually put the hammer down, get the fight in, and try and maximize as much of the lap time as possible to get past everyone as soon as possible. You know you're going to get that stop-go 30-second penalty. Last remaining 2 laps, possibly. Get it in the box. Get that 30 seconds out the way before the end of the race. Otherwise, it will be added 180 seconds.
I totally agree with you, Steven. I think it's a case of getting it out the way as soon as possible. Get back in the race, reassess where you are in the race, what position you get out, and then, reevaluate what you can do from there, how many positions you can possibly make from there, as we see Miller making his way around. He's got Eric Kirstein behind him in the Ferrari, trying to make his way past. Not exactly tucking the slipstream. He's already looking on the inside. Maybe had a good run out of the last corner, but not close enough to make a move stick through turn 1. Turn 1 at Suzuka. Very difficult turn for me. You see the Ferrari getting a little bit sideways there. Difficult turn for me, Steven, because it keeps on tightening up to you, and you need to keep on the brakes, keep getting down through those gears to try and get the nose into the corner and not run wide on exit.
Well, I think you would be going into the going into the first right-hander, into 4th gear, and while you're turning, you're getting it down the gears, slowing it down. So it's going to do a little bit of a momentum shift. You're backing it into 3rd, going into 2nd. Well, I'm going into 2nd, and then accelerating out in high 2nd into 3rd. But I'm not quite as fast as the pros here. I do see Cody Sherritt, though, jumping in. He is our defending champion for the Grid Championship, which is out tomorrow. And he's keeping an eye on the competitors out on the circuit, getting a bit of valuable information as well, because I think there's 2 folds to this. You can either get some valuable information of what can be happening out there, other drivers getting some racing experience and getting to understand what the cars and setups are doing under full race conditions. Do want to point out, though, Jamie Reese under braking, trying to go up on the inside of Dean Kabasa. Dean Kabasa saying no thank you. He's going to keep on the power and keep going.
Absolutely. And just a comment that Cody Sherritt made as well, the white liveries on this Merc and the Ferrari, it actually does look quite nice. Steven, I know you are a favorite of a white livery.
Blue and white, yes, the original sort of BMW colors. I've got to point out. You remember the old BMW GT ones, the well, not well would be
Yeah.
GT ones, the big, even like earlier ones where they had the Judd V8 motor, just that sort of bubbles, blue white. It's always got a soft place in my heart. I absolutely love it. Take a look though, Dean Cabasa, tight inside line, forcing Jamie Reese to go around the outside. He has to back out of it. So Dean Cabasa really trying to walk Jamie onto the most dirtiest line possible to try and fight his way through. It's going to be a difficult one. I do like the livery of having the white, but it does make it a little bit harder when you looking between the McLaren and the Ferrari, because it does hide some of the very the same the distinctive features. The Ferrari you can see because the back of it looks like the earlier the earlier versions of their Le Mans cars, if you go way back into the 60s and 70s. But once you start putting the white livery on the front, it makes it very difficult to choose between a McLaren. But one thing you cannot deny, take a look at the cutback. Miller trying to go up on the inside of SESA's with the cutback, makes it stick. Eric Kirstein, though, is going to follow suit. He's in 15th position, trying to chase him down. Tim the cameraman getting all the action through the hairpin as the guys battle their way through. But take a look, Eric Kirstein trying to go a little bit later on the brakes, couldn't make it stick. A few scuffs marks on the car as they've been battling it out. But this really shows the guys door to door as they make their way through.
Absolutely. Do you know, maybe they had some tips from the TCR guys last night and decided to go and pull some of their moves, but so far so good. Brilliant racing. SES Rays making it, and he's trying to get under the rear wing of Miller in front of him. Just behind him, he's got Kirstein for company, so he is in the middle of this three-car battle. I think Essie is going to try and make his way past Miller as soon as he can, because otherwise he's going to come under unnecessary pressure from Kirstein behind him. As we have a look
that's what I was trying to go through. Tim notified me that there was an incident. This is Duplessis getting a little bit too much momentum, and Ferrari looking a little bit second-hand. I also saw that Daniel Rowe has got a drive-through penalty, and that is for track limits. But let's see what happened to Duplessis, though. Into turn one, rotation, didn't want to steer. Oh.
That's actually kind of a strange one. Just looked like the car didn't want to turn in.
I think it all locked up, and it was just pretty much game over going into it. But that is a very, very second-hand Ferrari that's making its way around. Daniel Rowe, though, 5th place, drive-through penalty. That's not going to help his cause as they fight their way through a couple of incidents. Ooh. Can I just point out that the number 33 car of Charles Darden just happens to have Haas written over it and spun.
I saw that, yeah.
Have we got, and Charles, please don't make this become a thing, have we got a Mazda spin? Have we got a Mazda spin?
You said it, not me.
It says Haas. What am I to think? Gunther Steiner would be saying, absolutely love this right now. I'm sure that would be the the words of Gunther Steiner.
In a different, how can I put it, different vocabulary maybe, but yeah, he's going to bring the point across more. Yeah, let's leave it at let's leave it at Gunther.
We'll save it for a different podcast or something.
Yeah. This is a family show.
Yeah, this is a family show. Under braking though, Nicholas Manuel trying to go for a cutback on Jason McGregor, who manages to make the pass absolutely slick as he manages to get past that Ferrari. And Nicholas Manuel trying to do a little bit of a cutback, not able to go and battle it out. Couple of guys really pushing the limits of what they can do, but I've got to say, every single one of these drivers right the way through the field have been really getting some tremendous pace out the box to go and battle it out. I do want to point out though, Ryan Otten's out in 1st place. He is on an absolute charge, 2.8 seconds ahead of Daniel Dematro Petra. 3rd place, Sanjan Pillay. Christopher Adloff in 4th. 5th place, Daniel Rowe. Daniel De Villiers in 6th. 7th is Jason McGregor. Nicholas Manuel in 8th. 9th is Enric Sickers, along with Issam Domingo. Darren Miller in 11th. 12th, Essie Estes. Eric Kirstein in 13th. 14th, Dean Kabasa. Jamie Reese trying to chase him down in 15th. 16th, Loic Randabel. Charles Darden in 17th. 18th is Jaco Krobler. But also to just go and point out that 19th place and first of everyone that's done a pit stop is Justin Lotus, followed by Ramon Ionka, Mahayath Musa, AJ DeCock, Alan Patterson jumping himself up into 23rd. That I've got to say, I like the blue. I've got to say I like the blue. That fits.
Blue.
Yeah, I'm not into liveries and all that, but I've got to say that's actually that's done. I've got to say that's one of my better paint jobs, better than the Silk Cut when he was driving. I will say that love the Silk Cut, but honestly the blue looks a hell of a lot better and a bit more striking, to be honest. Chris Heineke in 24th, 25th Leclerc Basson, Tenny and Kube. 27th is Quinn Duplessis. He's back out after doing a bit of repair work, and I want their pit crew. They managed to get that car out, but he was stopped in the box for a long time. 42.4 seconds. Morgan McCall, 28th position after his penalty. So he's going to have to do everything he can. Johan van der Merwe in 29th. Ronaldo Boersma in 30th. Unfortunately, not back out on circuit. We've had a couple of retirements, though. Guys going and having to get themselves sorted out, running into mechanical failures. But good thing it's still early on in the season, so the guys do have some time to recover valuable points they're going through to try and ensure they keep up a tremendous pace for the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series Season 10. Yes, you heard that right. Season 10. Daniel Rowe, though, he's getting a
30 second. That was a drive-through. It's now a stop-go 30 second. I see Quinn Duplessis also picked up a drive-through penalty.
So what on earth is going on here? Because a couple of guys are just running into... Do you think it's a bit of rust that's coming into play for a couple of drivers? Because Dean Cabassa's
also.
Yeah, Dean Cabassa's got a stop-go 30-second penalty. Wait, I got a question. Is Bertus Hugo the steward again? Because if so, these are being handed out too often.
Let me just scroll down to the steward's room. No, he's not there tonight, so
he's off duty.
Off duty tonight.
So Daniel Rowe in the pits. Ryan Otten's in second place. In first place, he's going to be really putting down the hammer. Daniel Demetrios Petro trying to make up a bit of ground. Sanjan Pillay also doing everything he can to close down the distance. He's got Christopher Radloff tailing him. Daniel, the Hitman de Villiers, on a charge. A little bit of a tighter line. He's going defensive to try and bait Jason McGregor into taking a tighter line at this point. Jason McGregor saying, nope, I'm going to hold my line, buddy. You're going to work for this one. As they come under braking into turn 1, it is going to be a proper fight between them. You can see slight dab of the brakes as they make their way through turn 1 just to settle the car through the first corner and even making their way into the... Well, all I can say is the squigglies of... it's the squigglies. In my opinion, it's like a snake that you're trying to carve your way through.
It's actually called the snake.
Is it called the snake?
It's actually called the snake.
Well, there we go. See,
First part is called the snake, and then the long right-handed Dunlop curve is called the anti-banked curve. So I don't know what they got about against banks, but it's anti-banked.
I can tell you I lose it through the first S, and then I lose it through the second S, and lose it through the third S, and eventually I've given up by the fourth one. It's one of those sort of moments. You either get it right, but it's also a very, very tricky one. You got to ensure your car has enough rotation to go in for the fight. But take a look. Jason McGregor right up onto the back of Daniel de Villiers. Daniel trying to lean on him to stop that inside line. And Jason just managing to get it by. But it looks like Daniel going and losing out a bit of ground. That's allowed Jason McGregor to sneak up the inside. He runs out wide. Daniel de Villiers going and trying to close down the distance and into the fight. Nicholas Manuel as he fights his way through. Justin Lotus, though, up into 16th position. Be aware of him as he's first of everyone that's done his pit stops and was a very, very early pit stop as that's going to come into play. Do you think maybe a little bit too early in the race, considering we've got 26 minutes and 40 seconds left?
Well, it must have been something that decided him to, or convinced him to make a pit stop, and that it was the best call. Um, Sometimes in these sprint races, it's more a case of you make your strategy up as you go along, because it's a lot different racing to what we're going to do tomorrow evening, and find yourself in a position that you might decide, a pit stop at this stage might be the best option. The problem with that is it might be the best option at that stage, but it might be actually the wrong time to do it, and it might come back to bite you later on in the race.
It's definitely one of these ones. As we can see, Daniel de Villiers starting to feel it a little bit as the sun starts to set. You go into the sunset, you're a little bit blinded as you make your way through that left-hander, trying to keep it all together. The Lamborghini starting to fade off a little bit, and that's telling me that tires are starting to take a knock-on effect. With only 25 minutes and 30 seconds left, 29 minutes and 30 seconds completed of the race. But really, it seems like the mid-engines, certain of the mid-engines, Ferraris don't look too bad. Lamborghini's starting to feel it a lot more. And the McLarens, which we know for a fact, go and take on some serious knock with their tires, are going to be sitting, scratching their heads of when are the rears going to start letting go and becoming a problem.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Just out of interest sake, I did a race at Suzuka a while back in the Lamborghini on ACC, and definitely started struggling with these front tires after a while. So that might also be that what Daniel de Villiers is struggling there. Front tires just going off, and then you need to back off a little bit, because the car really starts understeering. As we have a look at Justin Lotus having an oversteer moment there through the spoon curves, held it nicely, and he's taking the fight to Darden just in front of him, so trying his utmost best to get past, and picking up a little slide in the process.
Yeah, that's it. He's having a proper go at Charles Darden. Charles doing everything he can to keep up ahead through the 130R, seems a little bit more stable, while Justin Lotus going and flirting with the track limits a little bit. And I'm sure, a little bit of contact.
Bump. Yeah, I wonder what Gunther is going to say about that little bit of contact in the Haas car. But
the only thing I can say is fortune favors the brave, as Charles Darden says.
Justin Lotus losing a little bit of drive because of that contact out of the last corner. That has allowed Darden to open up just a little bit of a gap. Justin Lotus, I'm pretty sure, is going to try his utmost best to close that gap down again and try and make his way past. But Darden so far coping with that pressure brilliantly and just saying, no, you're going to have to try harder than that to make your way past me.
Well, take a look at this. He is in 14th position. Charles Darden is yet to pit, so he's going to have to figure out what it's going to do. So, going to be a very, very interesting run as they battle their way through. Jaco Krobler in 15th position. He is also making up a bit of rounds as they claw their way through. Guys starting to pit. We're starting to hit that, running into a lower point now where the guys are going to have to try and figure out when are they going to need to pit. But let's actually jump into a helmet cam with Justin Lotus as he's right up against Charles Darden. You can see a little bit of reflection from the sun starting to come into effect. But this is where it gets a little bit worrying. Through heading up to the spoon, you can see the sun just moving across, and it just makes life a little bit more difficult. Hard onto braking and tries his luck, misjudging the braking, gets caught out, trying to come back at him, but really flirting with the curbs at this point and those track limits, while Charles Darden is just having a good go and running away with it. So something they've got to be very, very aware of is the track limits can hurt you. Just go and ask a couple of drivers that definitely felt it. Taking a look though, Daniel Rowe, he's heading back out onto the circuit after his unfortunate time, and Dean Cabasa also there. But I did see a certain car in the background, and that seemed to be Morgan McCall pulling into the pits. He's getting himself sorted. Charles Darden coming into the pits. So we're seeing these guys filtering in
Morgan
thick
McCall
and
has
fast.
done a pit stop. remember, he picked up the penalty on his pit stop. So he's back in the pits.
What is going on? They're going and really having a bit of a difficult time out there. So far, closest fight to deal with at the moment is Sunjin Pillay duking it out with Christopher Radloff. I think it's a little bit of follow the leader at the moment between these two, just as let the time tick by, as we're 21 minutes and 20 seconds left of the race. The guys are just trying to figure out what do they need to do to get themselves to the line.
Yeah, absolutely out in front. Ryan Ottens and Daniel DeMartis Preto. He is 4 seconds behind. They've opened up quite a considerable gap, Stephen, over third place man Sunjin Pillay. And then we've got this little battle between Christopher Radloff and running a little bit wide there. Sunjin Pillay keeping a tighter line. Christopher's really trying to push the boundaries to get past his teammate here, Stephen.
Something to really keep an eye on, and the guys are going to be talking about it. But creeping in the wings, Justin Lotus up to 13th position. Remember, he has completed all his mandatory pit stops that have been done. Quickest lap time of the race, Ryan Ottens with a 59.9 as a quickest lap time, backing off to 2 minutes. Looking at the guys, roughly 2:02 seems to be the sweet spot for majority of the field. 2 minutes being done by our first and second man, Ryan Ottens and Daniel Demartros-Petro. Darren Miller, though, parked in the middle of nowhere. And not really where you want to be as you watch everyone coming by. That is actually off the start-finish line. Bit of a peculiar pace to actually spin it.
Suspicious of this one. Maybe got on the power a little bit early and the rear end stepped out to sea, outbraked himself a little bit. Compromised his line on exit, trying to get the power down, and the rear end goes. And
wait. Was it trying to get the power down, or at the last minute tried going for the pit?
I think that Lambo just went into one of those lazy slides that you just become a passenger in, and definitely got a little bit of damage now on that car. The rear end does not look happy, Stephen. Definitely having issues in getting that power down now.
Yeah, doesn't want to live with him at the moment. Jamie Rees pulling into the pits, another one of our pit stops, but definitely having a difficult time. A little bit further back, Eric Kirstein and Loic Randable, they're fighting it out for the top 10. Loic just keeping himself ahead. He's got Eric looking up side by side as they make their way through, heading to the airpin. Eric going to go along the long way around, gets it all sorted out. Loic actually backing out and saying, listen, go for it. I'm going to follow through and maybe go for a cutback.
Yeah, it's actually a very good pass, and Randabal, doing the sensible thing, just backing out, because sometimes if you battle it out into that hairpin, things can go wrong, contact can happen. So maybe Randabal just deciding to back out, live to fight another day, as we have Jason McGregor battling it out, and he's got De Kock just in front of him. In the McLaren going side by side, actually looks like De Kock let him by there.
Yeah, De Kock actually just going and saying, listen, I'm going to keep in your toe. Maybe not getting the same drive as he wanted, but going to really release it out. Take a look further up the road. Sunjin Pillay losing out of position. He's got Christopher Radloff just ahead of him. And with only 18 minutes left of the race to go, it is going to be an outright fight to the line. I do want to go and point out, though, our position, well, winners and losers in terms of gains. Loic Randable up 20 positions until his pit stop. He's climbed from 31st into 11th position. So now starting to drop down the order of that. Christopher Radloff, he's out in third place, gained 4 position. Ryan Ottens and Daniel Demartros-Petro they are in exactly where they started, so no change between those two. Third place, so up 4 positions. Sunjin Pillay down 1 position. Daniel the Hitman de Villiers up 5 positions. Nicholas Manuel down 2 positions. Unrik Sichers 8 positions up. Then we've got SESA 6 positions up. Darren Miller up 10 positions. Eric Kirstein up 8. Justin Lotus up down 6. But remember, he has done his pit stop. Jaco Krobler up 20 positions. Then we've got Mahath Musa up 12 positions. Issam Domingo up 6. Jason McGregor up 1. AJ De Kock up 5. Loic Randable up 14 positions. Alan Patterson up 8 positions from where he started. Ramon Yonka up 3 positions. Jamie Rees up 9 positions. Charles Darden down 4 positions. Tini and Kube up 2 positions. Leclerc Basson down 12 positions. Chris Heineke, we haven't spoken about too much this race. He's up 6 positions. And Quinn Duplessis down 16 positions, but did have some major damage on the car. Dean Kabasa up 2 positions. Then we got Van der Merwe down 4 positions. Daniel Rowe down 20 positions. Morgan McCall 23 positions. But it does look like he's retired that car. And Ronaldo Bosma in 30th place, down 17 positions. So a couple of guys taking heavy losses early on. Others having a brilliant race out there. Lowe trying to get a little bit more run. He has got Alan Patterson just ahead of him. Alan managed to sneak on by and now is on an outright charge to get his way back up to the top. I think it's going to be a proper race to the line for the field. But with all being said and done, Ryan Otten's 5.5 seconds ahead of Daniel Demetrius-Petro, who's just trying to get himself a little bit more comfortable out there. And Yalaman, I got to say, this is turning into quite a race and gets me rather excited to see what's going to happen through the season.
Absolutely, Stephen. You know, some of the guys having a very difficult race tonight. And I have a look there, 29th position, Daniel Rowe. According to the timing sheet, Stephen, he hasn't done a pit stop yet. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Ooh. Do you think he's been having difficulties with the box? Now, this is something we've seen before, that if you don't line yourself up correctly in the box, they have to lift you up and move you, but then it doesn't count as a pit stop, and that can impact it.
Yes, because you also picked up that stop-go 30-second penalty. So not having the best of first races as we have a look at Jason McGregor battling it out around the track. Awesome livery on the BMW there in front.
Yeah, that's Issam Domingo with the Project Vapor team. That's one thing I'm going to give it up to the Project Vapor team. They always come up with these wacky, crazy liveries and always coming up with some really interesting stuff. We did see the pink Mercedes with "Sponsor Me" written all over, which was quite fun. But I've got to say, I quite like these wacky liveries that do come up from the Project Vapor team. They tend to take a little bit of pride in doing a bit of artwork. Just taking a look though, Daniel Rowe doing the fastest lap time of the race, 1:59.4. He's done on the system. He's been into the pits 3 times. Last time was 30.5. So if he had a stop-go penalty of 30 seconds, and then the 2 times didn't line up in the box, or was serving a penalty, I don't know. But either way, on the system, it's got him for 3. And, well, that's not going to be helping his chances. And I'm sure will be going and having a bit of frustration. Gabriel Dos Santos actually giving a little bit of a hint, though, of Issam Domingo's car having a little bit of a special side for it, where there's a number plate on the side. So let's see if we can try and get to it. Maybe go on a chase cam. Nope. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. But there is a special number plate on Issam Domingo's car. And I've got a funny feeling it's going to be Goat Domingo. That's written there. That seems to be the nickname that was put in place. Jason McGregor, though, right up the rear spoiler. Trying to go up on the inside. Getting a little bit more drive. Getting up on the inside. Got to have a bit of an advantage if it can get the swing in for the right-hander side by side between the two. And, oh, well, there was only one way that was going to turn out, and that was two doors up against one another, and only one can come across the line with, will get out without a problem. AJ the Cock, though, seeing the battle in front, going, I think I'm going to go for this. Jason McGregor, though, he is putting his elbows out. Issam Domingo getting into the fight, but these two are slugging it out properly for 14th and 15th position.
Yeah, awesome fight that, not backing out any one of them. And we see Domingo, he's closed that gap right out again after he had to go onto the gravel. He's going to try and line him up onto the back straight just before the 130R. Let's see if he can get the drive out of the spoon curves, tucking into that slipstream. But McGregor is really taking this battle to him, Stephen. There's nothing between these two cars. The gap is 0.025 as they go through the 130R. McGregor running a little bit wide. He's going to look for the inside line. Is he close enough?
Contact. Isam Domingo getting contact, trying to pull it back. Gets back on, but is battling a bit. AJ de Kock comes round and has to take evasive maneuvers. Isam Domingo, though, I think was fishtailing a little bit to try and get it. Jason McGregor took a little bit of a late break and unfortunately just going and tipping one another. But thankfully, Domingo, no damage on the car, but is definitely going to be struggling with those tire pressures now gone skyrocketing through the roof. And he's got an Alan Patterson who's looking to capitalize on it. AJ de Kock, though, he's hoping to stretch his legs and get away from the BMW and leave these two to go and slug it out amongst themselves for 16th and 17th, respectively.
Absolutely. Now, Alan Patterson behind him. And Stephen, as you said, does look like that BMW is struggling a little bit. Tires definitely overheated with that off he had. So Alan's going to try and close that gap down while he's trying to get those tire pressures and temperatures back to where they should be. So let's see if we've got another battle developing here, switching from the one battle to the other one. Domingo part of both battles, but actually does look like he got the car sorted out now, as it does look like he is starting to open up a little bit of a gap. Having said that, Alan taking the title line, looking for the drive out of the, closing the gap again to the BMW in front. Stephen, awesome racing from start to finish. That Lamborghini definitely has some straight line speed. He's going to look on the inside for the spoon curve. Is he close enough? Sticking the nose in there, slight contact.
Isam Domingo tried closing the door, and Alan Patterson was there. But Domingo managing to pull it back, but it was just the slightest of touches that just launched Domingo out a bit wide. And a race that's starting to just slip out of his hands at this point. And the frustration must be starting to kick in of, well, one lap, two little contacts have pushed him a little bit further down the order to where he wants to be. And considering the pit stops are done and dusted, this is all just a sprint race down to the line. Less than 10 minutes to go, 9 minutes and 10 seconds of battling. Nicholas Manuel, he's getting onto the back of Daniel de Villiers. So the PWSR Alpha team now having to deal with Scuderia Ferrari right behind. Nicholas Manuel is looking to put the charge on him and really reel in the likes of Daniel de Villiers to try and get that 5th position. Remember that Ryan Otten's out in 1st place, Daniel Demartros Petro in 2nd, 3rd place Christopher Radloff, Sanjan Pillay in 4th, Daniel de Villiers in 5th, 6th Nicholas Manuel, Enric Sickers in 7th, 8th is SESA's, 9th is Darren Miller, along with Eric Kirstein in the top 10 are yet to pit, while Justin Lotus is closing down on our 10th place man who has completed all his pit stops. Jaco Krobler, though, he's down in 12th place. He needs to pit still. The rest of the field have all gone and pitted. So it is turning into a bit of when are you going to do it? Now that you're into the last 8 minutes of a race, you're running out of time. As we see Ramon Yonka diving up the inside, contact with Loic Randabal into the hairpin. That's pushed Loic into the middle of nowhere. He's trying to get himself going. Jamie Rees saying, well, he's going to try and get going and gets ahead. So he's going to be more than happy with that. Loic trying to get himself sorted as he's got Charles Darden right behind him and really trying to close down the gap. He's got Tini and Kube, who is pushing as hard as he can to keep him to the toe. So Charles just has to keep an eye on the mirrors. And if I was in the likes of Loic Randabal, I'm going to have to try and refocus as quick as possible, knowing the multiple threats that are behind me.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Race really starting to liven up again, Stephen, now that a lot of the pit stops are done. But as you said, you know, the front guys, I think they're going to leave those pit stops as late as possible. Having a quick look at the YouTube chat, Johannes Greyland saying you can go free cam and call it the drone view. Didn't we try that once and it didn't end well?
We'll give it a try once again. I'm not a very good pilot, but we will we will definitely have the drone cam return. That's for certain. Tim's gonna, I'll give the control over to Tim, and let's see what Tim will be able to do. Charles Darden, side by side with Loic Randall, dives up on the inside, makes a count. Tinny and Kube, though, going and also getting involved. The two of them coming into blows. Coming back on circuit, brings himself, stress for the entire field. And as one way to change the color of your shorts, well, that's it. Jamie Risa, he's got a battle with Ramona Yunka right behind him. Ramona doing everything he can to go up on the inside, tries to do it, but unfortunately the straight line power of that Mercedes coming into play, the big burly V8 of the Mercedes, able to power away from the Ferrari V8, the little more subtle Ferrari V8.
Refined.
Yes, a little bit more refined. The Stallion having to sit behind the more brute force German manufacturing, but has got the rotation.
Yeah, got the rotation, but just look at the Merc pulling out the gap again on that acceleration. So, two very different cars here, Steven. The Mercedes with that brute force and the Ferrari with the refined, better rotation. Let's see what happens as they go through the spoon curves. Can the Ferrari close up on the big Mercedes? Mercedes having to follow a little bit of a wider line. Ferrari can take a tighter line. Can he get the power down early? Nope. The Mercedes did a pretty good job through there, and he's just opening up that 8-cylinder to pull away from the Ferrari 8-cylinder.
Now, Jamie Reese not holding back at the moment, trying to break away. But at the moment, I do want to talk about our first place man who's starting to make his way through the field. That is Ryan Ottens. He has got a little bit of a battle going on ahead of him, so he's going to have to be very cautious on his way past. Blue flags being waved. And as per the rules of Raceface for our Assetto Corsa Competizione, you will get blue flags, but you are not obliged to jump out the way. Ryan Ottens, though, going and choosing to go into the pits. He's going to get it done. He's got plenty of time ahead of this man. Oh, never mind, actually. Daniel Raceface.pro saying, listen, I'm going to get going. First place, now leading out the race. Christopher Radloff, he's trying to carve his way through to maybe try and leapfrog ahead of his teammate. Remember, they're still needing to pit. So Ryan Ottens is keeping an eye on this position here. Justin Lotus, who's still on the other side of the circuit. So I think Ryan Ottens may have just more than enough time to get himself back out and ahead of Justin Lotus without too much of a headache, but needs to put the power down to close down to Daniel Raceface.pro, Christopher Radloff, and Sanjan Pillay that have been averaging the same lap time as him, lap after lap. Nicholas Manuel pulling into the pits. He's getting himself sorted. He's in 6th. Remember, keeping an eye on Justin Lotus in 9th place at the moment, making his way through the 130R into the chicane, hard onto the brakes. So let's see what he can do. SES Hayes, Darren Miller, all pulling into the pits as well. So now we're starting to see this happen more and more. The drivers trying to figure out what's going to be more advantageous. But right to the wire, though, it's going to be close. 3 minutes and 30 seconds, or 34 seconds left of this race. And I think maybe leaving it too long. Nicholas Manuel, though, jumping on the button far too early. Stop, go 30 seconds. He has only got 3 minutes and 15 seconds to go and make that stop go 30 seconds penalty. Ouch. Not the way you wanted your race to turn out right now, and it's going to have to try and refocus on what to do. I don't think it's worth going and racing it to the end and crossing a line. Just get it done, get back out there, and avoid any harsher penalties that will come in, because I've got to say, we don't have a Michael Massey as a COC or a steward. We definitely got some guys that don't have enough milk and sugar in their coffee, and they really let you know about it. Daniel Raceface.pro in 1st place. He's now pitting. Christopher Radloff joining suit. Will Sanjan Pillay also file in as well? Looks like it. Daniel De Villiers, he's going to have to get his way back into the pits, and he's got Ryan Ottens right up behind him. And Ryan Ottens, the defending champion, will be retaking 1st place for round number 1 at the moment. But now it's all about trying to hang it all together and make sure you cross that line in 1st place. Eric Kirstein, who's also needing to pit. He needs to figure out when he's going to get out there, but also keep an eye on Jaco Krobler and Daniel Rowe still needing to get their pit stops done and dusted. I think Daniel Rowe isn't too sure that his pit stop isn't done as yet. So it's something that if there's anyone that can tell him to quickly get in the pits, well, I think there's a moment now to get him in the pits. It's do or die. Otherwise, he's going to sustain a heavier penalty than just falling down the order. He's already in 28th position. Well, you don't want to add a couple of seconds to that as well. Yes, you're down the order and you're just racing, but rather just get it over and done with and get yourself back out there. I know it's frustrating as a driver, but it's one of these things of try and kick the habit before it becomes a proper habit.
Yeah, but Stephen, I think at this stage for Daniel Rowe, there's not much difference in him doing a pit stop or not doing a pit stop. As you said, he's been in the pits 3 times. So, I don't think he is at this stage sure, or maybe he thinks he's done his pit stops. Or that's Jaco Krobler going off.
Yeah, that's Jaco Krobler. And, just tagging the grass, goes round. Low Grandebald taking evasive action as he has to try and keep it all together. Not a place where you want to be stuck, pointing in the wrong direction. Too much throttle, gets it into the wall, and now having a difficult situation to try turning his way around. Yellow flags being waved by our marshals. Very thankless job out there. Even in the sim world, it's a completely thankless. Because guys just tend to keep accelerating, even though there's yellow flags. Well, as you heard it there, Ryan Ottens is now starting his final lap for round number 1, 27 laps. So it'll be 28 laps by the end of the race, completed by this man.
Yeah, Ryan Ottens, he has opened up almost a 10-second gap over Daniel Preto. Had a little look at that Ferrari. He's definitely looks like he's struggling with tires. So they are done and dusted. They are looking forward to the end of the race. Daniel Preto, brilliant drive, coming home in 2nd place. He's opened up a more than 14-second gap over 3rd place man, Christopher Radloff. 4th place, we've got Justin Lotus. Stephen, this was one awesome opening round we had here in the GT3 Sprint Series at Raceface.
Well, that's it. But Justin Lotus can't count his chickens just as yet, as he's got 1 lap to try and survive the battle. And Daniel the Hitman de Villiers is only a second behind him in this fight. Heinrich Sichers is a little bit further down. He's in 6th, 7th is Sanjan Pillay. SES Days is in 8th position, 1.5 seconds behind him. Mahayath Musa getting a little bit more momentum. He's got Jason McGregor hunting him down. 11th place, Darren Miller. AJ de Kock in 12th. 13th is Alan Patterson. Issam Domingo in 14th. 15th is Eric Kirstein. Side by side with Jamie Reese, going to try and outbreak him into turn 1. So the battle's on over. Jamie Reese managing just to eke ahead. But Eric Kirstein going to go for the cutback. Unfortunately, that Merc is stopping on a dime and is going to stop dead on the apex while you're trying to figure your way through. Ramon Ionka a little bit further behind. He is 1.5 seconds keeping an eye on this battle. Charles Darden 1.8 seconds behind 17th position. So Charles Darden trying to make up a bit of time. Leclerc Besson in 19th. 20th is Loic Randebal with Tini and Kube taking the fight to him. These two have been lucky the last couple of laps, but now it's about trying to carve their way through. Ryan Ottens, though, taking the checkered flag for the Hybrid Academy team and to go and start off on a high for season 10 and looking to go and get another championship underneath his belt. Well, this is the best way to start it off. Daniel Petro in 2nd place, having a fantastic run out there. He really did everything he could. Christopher Radloff taking a 3rd place. Justin Lotus will be coming home in 4th place if he can carry the drive. Daniel de Villiers can do everything he can, though. That Lamborghini, unfortunately, a little bit too far behind to close down on the Ferrari, and what a race it was. So Justin Lotus ahead of Daniel de Villiers. Heinrich Sichers, he has got Sanjan Pillay right behind him. Let's see if Sichers will be able to make a little bit of ground. Does so, taking 6th place. 7th is Sanjan Pillay. SES Days making his way through. He will be taking 8th place. 9th will be Mahayath Musa if he can keep Jason McGregor at bay. Looks like he'll be able to do it as they come charging their way through to the line. Absolutely awesome stuff for our top 10. Darren Miller finishing out in 11th place. Strong opening result. AJ de Kock coming across in 12th. Alan Patterson in 13th. Isam Domingo. He's got Jamie Reese right behind him, but he manages to cross the line. And after a little bit of a disastrous couple of laps, he managed to go and pull a result out of the bag. 14th, not bad. Jamie Reese in 15th. Eric Kirstein in 16th. 17th is Ramon Yonka. 18th is Charles Darden. Leclerc Busson. Loic Randabal just going and drag racing Tini and Kube right to the line. 0.1 of a second between these two for 20th and 21st. 22nd, Chris Haneke. Nicholas Manuel finishing in 23rd. 24th is Quan Duplessis, along with Jaco Krobler, Dean Cabasa, Johan van der Merwe, Ronaldo Bursma, Daniel Morgan McCall, Bashir Jadwat, Daniel Rowe in 29th, and 32nd is Kerry Duplessis. So some great racing out there, but Janneman, not without its interesting runs. Lots of guys are going to be looking back at the drawing board and saying, okay, what do we need to do to improve? How are we going to look at improving this? And what's next for the run? Your thoughts on the race?
Absolutely, Stephen. First of all, Ryan Ottens, he's picked up the new season and started off with a win, trying to defend the championship of his. But a lot of guys out there tonight, I don't think they had the race they wanted. They got the race that they were dealt. So they're going to go back to the drawing board and try and assess what went wrong in this race. Where did they make the mistakes? And not only correct it for next week, but they need to correct it for tomorrow night for the Grid Championship.
Yeah, it's going to be one of these ones of, okay, what did we do? What do we need to do? How can we make things a little bit better? As you said, it's just about going through the information that has happened and figuring out, right, what do I need to do to improve things? Get your way up to the top. Make sure that you can sustain a great pace and claw your way through. It's going to be a difficult one. I think a lot of guys have got a bit of thinking to do for what they want. But ultimately, I think we're in for a fantastic season. If this is the opener, well, I can't wait to see how it's all going to turn out with our 8 rounds of racing. First round done and dusted, that the guys can go and take a look at and say, right, what do we need to do? How to improve? Where is those crucial couple of seconds? But with that being said, you did touch onto it. Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the Grid Championship tomorrow evening. Season 4 Medal State is back, being our major sponsor and joining up with Raceface for Season 4 of the Grid Championship. Good to see that happening once again, and a long-running mainstay of the series. So keep an eye out for it tomorrow evening. Same time, 2 mandatory pit stops, hour and 20 minutes of racing. Well, I think that's going to make things a lot more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot more strategy tomorrow evening with the 2 pit stops that you need to make. Also, the race is almost half an hour longer than tonight. Different names again we're going to see tomorrow evening, guys, that race in the sprint series. But Stephen, if this is the racing, or if this is what the racing's going to look like this season, I think I'll have to get a pair of safety belts for this seat of mine.
Oh, that's definitely going to be hanging on. Also coming up, we do have round 1 at Suzuka for our Automobilista 2 series just started. And there's guys really, really amped to see it. Good to see some open wheels returning to the world of Raceface. And Automobilista 2, with its recent updates, has got people quite excited, including myself. So keep an eye out for the 5th of August of that racing. I've got to say, really looking forward to seeing how people are going to be able to push the boundaries onto it. Next, we do have our racing on iRacing, the F4 making its debut run, 8th of August, round 1, Oran Park. We saw Oran Park be a place for all the thrills and spills that can come from it with our TCRs last night. But now let's get into some open wheel racing, which honestly is one of the best. After that, we do have Montreal on the 8th of August for our Formula 1 2023 here at Raceface. Do not miss it. Something you want to be a part of. And F1 23 has been a valuable sim. Lots of people getting to grips with it, really enjoying it out there. So it's good to see that the longest running F1, well, South African championship now making its debut return after a little bit of a hiatus of note.
Yes, the guys are really getting stuck into the F1 23 scene. Interesting track they're racing on, Montreal, Canada. It's almost kind of a semi-street circuit. Well, it is a semi-street circuit as they utilize some of the streets around there. So I think we've got an awesome racing week ahead of us. One race to go, and that is the Grid Championship for this week. And then, you know, Stephen, the first week of the new season would then be already done and dusted.
Now that's it. Also, we do have our next week round 2. We head to Kota on the 9th of August. Circuit of America. Keep an eye on it. It's going to be a fun one. Not really a circuit that I'm a huge fan of, but lots of people loving the ebbs and flows of the Circuit of America. Turn 1 being one of those very interesting but yet infamous corners to deal with, no matter if you're in any GT car, prototype, or even single-seater. Then also coming up, we do have on the 15th of August, our round 2 of our Raceface TCR League, heading to Laguna Seca to have a bit of fun. Guys are opening up onto a bit of a bigger circuit, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the guys are going to duke it out, especially with an open setup. And guys, just getting a little bit more worked into it. But gentlemen, with that being said, racing done and dusted for this evening at Suzuka for the GT3 Sprint Series round opener, round 1. And I've got to say, well, I'm chomping at the bit for this one.
Yeah, as you said, I think it's going to be a brilliant season that we have ahead. It's laid down the stage, so to call, for what's going to happen tomorrow evening. And I think the guys that race tonight, they've got some valuable track info in race conditions. They can carry that forward to tomorrow evening. The guys that haven't, we've spoken about it, the guys that had the best of races tonight, they can go and assess to see what went wrong, try and rectify that tomorrow. A couple of the guys in the chat that will be racing tomorrow evening, they kept an eye on. Pretty sure they made some notes. So let's see what happens tomorrow evening.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, make sure that you go and keep an eye out on all our social media, out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Lots going on, lots of behind the scenes action, and all the stories that are coming in and out here at Raceface, so be clued up on all the action. Also, come join us in our Discord, as we love to have you guys, whether you want to be racing or whether you just want to come say how's it and have a bit of a chat with everyone. You're always welcome to our Discord and be a part of it. Also, it allows you to have all the information of where to enter. Also, if you're interested in entering in the races, head over to www.Raceface.pro for all your fun and action. And out here on YouTube, hit the subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and also drop us a comment as well if you enjoyed all the commentary, all the cameras, and all the bit of fun. Also, a big shout out to Tim. Gotta say, did you know? Some say Tim went and drew Suzuka on the back of a napkin without even seeing the circuit. There's something for you guys. A little bit of passing information there we go. From myself, Stephen Kernick, I'd like to thank my co-commentator, Yaneman Press, for joining me this evening and for all the fun. And Yaneman, thank you very much for dealing with me in your ear. To you guys out at home, the family, the friends, the teams, the drivers, everyone that allowed us to come sit in your home, have a bit of a drink, chat to you guys while going and drinking all the soda and then crashing out on your couch afterwards. We'd like to say thank you to you guys for keeping us up and going, especially here at Raceface, being a major part on our trip to 1,000 subscribers. We're up to 920. Can you believe it?
Not long to go, Stephen. Not long to go until we reach that 1,000 mark. Always a pleasure commentating with you, and I just turned the volume down.
Well, there we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we'll see you next time right here on Raceface. Same time, same place, tomorrow evening for the Grid Championship, round number 1 here at Suzuka. And like always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.